Welcome back, everyone. Nathan here with a little bit different video. So we're actually going to paint this base up for the Hellsmiths of Shoot on video. We have our test base that we did earlier in the week. So we're going to try to replicate that and show you how easy it is. So first up, we've got Tyrant Skull, which is specifically made for dry brushing because we're going to dry brush this whole thing. You'll get to see what I mean by that. So you just take a dry brush. This one specifically is from Army Painter. And you just wipe the excess off on a paper towel until there's almost nothing left on the brush. And the reason for this is dry brushing is used to create a highlight technique on raised areas. So we're really just going to be touching the quote-unquote three-dimensional or texture of this. So I'm going to start with this on the cracked earth. With dry brushing, all you got to do is just swipe back and forth, just kind of barely touching everything. Again, the goal is we're just trying to hit the raised areas. I'm going with this first, even though if you've seen a previous video, this area is actually going to be brownish. But I needed some form of a kind of a highlight so that the brown actually comes through a little bit better. Now, I am no expert at this, but I just kind of wanted to make a video to show anyone can do this. So if you're new into the hobby, or just getting back into it after a long time, you're kind of rusty, there's nothing to worry about. There are plenty of easy techniques like this dry brushing. There's another one I've been looking at, which is the slap chop. Kind of a funny name, but it relies heavily on dry brushing like this as well. Sometimes you can swirl the brush around like this too, for these much larger areas like this. And you can see it lightens it up just a little bit, because you remember this was primed black. Wash the brush off. And we'll take a closer look at these dry brushes by Army Painter. So they look like this. They almost look like makeup brushes. They're kind of coarse. And pretty loose as well. And that's on purpose. So after we get the bone colored dry brushed on there. I'm going to switch over to a darker brown. Not so dark that it kind of blends in with the black, but this, which is another Citadel color. This one is Steel Legion Drab. And we're going to do something pretty much the same. We got to be more careful with these since it's not an actual dry paint like we saw with the previous one where it comes out kind of like a paste. So this one is truly a paint. So we have to be a little bit more careful with actually making sure we remove enough from the brush before we actually start applying it. I just use this paper towel for that exact thing. Once I can wipe into an area, there's barely anything showing. Then we'll actually switch over and start using it. I'm being a little bit more deliberate with this one too, as far as how the brush strokes go. Kind of a, can't really use cardinal directions, but a north-south, but it's consistent across the model, or in this case, the base. We can add just a little bit more to the brush. Compare it a little bit between that and the test base. So we'll put some more paint on the brush and just go over it one more time. All right, so that looks good. And I'll try to get a little closer picture of it after it's all finished because we're almost done already. So anytime I'm doing miniatures, I like to do something like this where you have at least two effects on the base. I feel like it adds realism. Maybe it's just all in my head, but it seems like it. And as I'll show at the end, we'll actually add a third thing as well to just try to increase that realism, make it seem more like a natural environment. All right, so the last part, we're going to do the kind of ashen waste like you'd seen on the previous one. This area. We're going to use Dawnstone. So another Citadel paint, but not a dry paint. So again, we'll have to do the same thing. Make sure the majority of it is off the brush. Because it is actually meant as a base layer for miniatures. And some of it actually gets over into the cracked earth. That's not a bad thing. Because again, we're looking at something that's kind of a volcanic terrain. And things in nature are rarely ever perfect. So, any mistakes, I would say just add to the realism. And that is it. So that's just an easy way to do basing for your miniatures. With this one specifically, we're looking at having kind of an ashen waste or a polluted kind of area. And then once we get the actual miniature painted and put on there, we're going to add a third effect. Because though it's kind of a polluted area with ash and broken ground, we still expect some life to be there. So some of the things you can get at hobby stores are these little tufts of grass. And I'll just go ahead and put one on just to kind of show what it looks like. So you just pop them off this little piece of plastic. I then always just put a spot of super glue on it. And we'll just put it right here. So just add some extra life to the base on what would otherwise be just a lifeless kind of platform. So I hope you all enjoyed the making of the base for the Hellsmiths of Hashut Bombard. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll see you next time.